that was the same thing that happened the other day. I got to sidetracked and didn't realize we were live, but we're live now. Sorry for the delay. That was my fault again. And but it looks like we already got some people here joining us today, which is good. Let me go ahead and get some of the hellos out of the way real quick, and we'll get started. Sam again. I got to thank Sam so much. He was the first one in, and he already dropped your link so that other people can make sure they go check out your channel. It looks like we have MNC Aquatics. Is it just my end, or are you there, right, Chris?
Me?
Oh yeah, you're there. Okay.
Other Chris. I'm like letting you do your thing. I don't
Yeah,
want to
no.
interrupt.
No. It's because the screen again is doing the same thing. I'm pretty sure it's. I'll get a. There you go. There it is. You're moving now.
There we go.
I don't know if your camera pauses if you quit moving for too long.
Maybe it's just a webcam. I didn't ever stop really moving on it. So
yeah, no, I don't know. It's either way. I'm just gonna make sure. If I could get some feedback on Chris's video and audio, I would greatly appreciate it. Because on my end, it looks like the screen's frozen, but earlier I could see him moving. I just want to make sure that's not the case before we get too far into the conversation. MNC Aquatics, thank you so much for joining us today. Resident Alien, Tommy, thank you so much for being here. Jake and Katie, Hagen Hill Designs, thank you for joining us. Linda Worth, thank you for joining us. Fathom, Alex, Fathom Aquatics, Alex, thank you so much for videos frozen from him. Audio's good. Oh, hey, Chris.
Do you have to boot me, bring me back again?
Yeah, I think so. Let me try that. Okay. You're good there.
Ta-da.
Yeah, your head's moving. There we go. Now, is that also on your guys' end? You guys can see Chris? Wave at the camera. Oh, he's doing the wave. Yeah, we can see him.
Jelly. It's fitting. We're got to go with the flow. Anyone who's a fan of Avatar, water try.
Yeah. I hope this is not going to be an ongoing issue, because, well, it's more important what you have to say.
I'd hope so.
I'm setting up a 75 in the shed. Oh, okay. Audra, thank you for dropping in. Kyle, thank you for joining us today. All good. All right. I know people are going to be, filtering in throughout the stream, but for those of you guys that are joining us today I am joined by with Chris from Aquatic Ascent. Chris, I want to thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know I must have caught you a little bit off guard. I kind of when I find a new channel that I really find interesting, I feel like I have to share them with the rest of the community, and that just so happened to be the case with your channel. And I didn't mean to come off as too aggressive or pushy when I asked you to be on the show. I know most people get taken aback, especially when they're relatively not new to the community, but not new to what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I was like, oh, wow, I just put up like a video. Kind of cool. And, I watched some of your old lives. My girlfriend and I this weekend, we were like, oh, you know what? Let's look into it before I'm like, yes or no. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I might as well. He seems like a pretty good dude. And I'm assuming you are Mexican.
Yeah, I am Mexican.
So she's from León, Guanajuato. So I was like,
okay.
oh, you know what? Perfect. Let's get along.
Yeah. No wonder you know some phrases in Spanish. How good is, or how much of the Spanish do you handle?
Decently conversational. I live in the present because the past tense is too hard to conjugate right now.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's even better than some of the people that I know that are Mexican.
Yeah, I did growing up, I had a bunch of Costa Rican friends, and then I took it in college while also working for a tree company that everyone spoke Spanish. So I just kind of picked it up along the way, started dating her, was working in a primarily Hispanic area as a social worker. And yeah, you just learn a lot, and everyone loves teaching you the bad words first. So I've got those pretty much on lock, but We'll
Yeah,
try to
no,
keep it family friendly.
yeah, no, that's always any language that you're gonna learn. That's the Ascent language is the first thing you're gonna learn because that's probably what you're gonna use first more than anything else. And then the three important things: where to find food, where's the restroom, and how to get a beer.
That's fair.
Those are the three next important things you got to learn. And once you got that, the rest is gravy. After that,
Oh, speaking of
so
gravy, how was your Thanksgiving? I didn't mean to be
yeah,
the one asking questions.
no, that's fine. There is no structure. If you saw any of my live streams, like you said you did, you'll know there's no format to it. I rather have a conversation with somebody than I've never done well with the yes and no kind of questions. I personally don't like them. That's the reason why I don't do my interviews like that. Plus, what I've learned over the course of the years, when you ask open or I mean closed end questions, you're just going to usually get a yes or a no, and there's no extension beyond that answer. And I find it that it's just better we have a conversation, and eventually, if there's something that I've been wanting to ask, I'll get to it. But I tend to learn more about my guest by just doing what we're doing.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, no, Thanksgiving for us. Actually, we didn't do anything special for Thanksgiving because both my wife and I had to work, and our kids are all grown and out of the house, so they're all busy doing their own thing, and they don't live near us. The closest one is about an hour away, and then and he's just on the other side of where we're at in California, and then my oldest, he's in San Antonio. He's in the
Okay.
Air Force, so he's stationed out there at Lackland, and our daughter is at Las Vegas.
Some
So
pretty
that's
fun
where
areas.
they're all scattered throughout the states. Well, the west side of the states.
Yeah, I'm pretty much quite the opposite. We had a nice little niche family thing. Not a ton of people could make it, but it was like the first time my girlfriend could join me for one of our big holidays. Well, no, she was with me for Easter because she wasn't last year. She was back down in Mexico,
Okay.
and so I got to actually just spend some time with her, which was nice. And I don't know, it's nice. It's like the first time getting to bring a girlfriend to like a proper holiday. So kind of a special one for me.
Oh, okay. So
Although
that
nothing super special happened.
now I don't know. Like in our culture, if you're bringing a girl over, that means it's a lot more serious than just dating.
We've been together for over a year and a half now,
Oh,
and
well,
you know,
congratulations on that.
thank you. Goals are long term. She tolerates the fish. Actually, she gets pretty interested in a lot of them, especially my bristlenose colony right over there. I've got some long, thin, blue-eyed lemons, and her favorite color is yellow, so she just gets obsessed with them. Them and my yellow shrimp, even though my shrimp tanks all got decimated this year, which was pretty frustrating. Kind of a tough blow to the business side of Aquatic Ascent.
Oh, okay. Well, since you brought that up, is that one of your is that one of the goals that you have is actually running a business, or it seems like you're already doing business with your fish room?
Yeah, so a lot of it right now I'm mainly selling through Reddit and anyone who reaches out to me, the local fish clubs. My goal for this year when I got my shrimp colonies back, in March and such, I got a couple different colors. They all did really well. They all bred once. I'm like, all right, cool. We're getting them kicked off. In a few months, I'll be able to have like a steady flow of shrimp coming in. And mainly to sell to local stores. I feel like that's going to be easiest for me. Although just off to my left, I have all my shipping supplies. I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to focus on shrimp. They all tanked. And I'm like, well, now I don't have product to sell. And then I got blackbeard algae in one of my tanks. And I care much more about quality than quantity.
Yeah.
I don't want to just send someone something crappy. If I got something from me, I would want to appreciate it. So I've always been, I want to pack value into that because it's a hobby hustle right now. Maybe it turns into something, but I still have the career aspirations in finance. So it is something on the side as much as this little side project has been 23 tanks and counting.
Okay.
Um,
How big of an area is your fish room right now?
right now, oh, I don't know the square footage. I'm in my dad's basement, but it's really just the
Okay.
wall behind me, pretty much.
Okay.
There's the tanks behind me, which there's the 20 longs I'm using for grow outs, and behind this couch that I pulled over here, there are 3 10 gallons in each little caboose on this or cabinet area that I built, and then the 20 on top. But off to the side that way, I've got a 20 long, a 5 in my 10 gallon quarantine that
Okay.
are just kind of on a stand. I'll make something more official over there if this does well and produces and I can justify it to my dad because I am still at home. And
Okay.
then up in my bedroom, I have my like pretty display tanks that I use more for the content. I've got some pea puffers, a guppy tank, just what's going to become a mesh of a community tank, probably for some live bearers and my jerk of an angelfish whose poor fiance died. I was gonna spawn that pair. They were beautiful. These pandas with this bright blue underhue, stunning. And nope, nope. Just one morning came down. She just wasn't in the tank. She wasn't. She didn't jump out. She just died, and everything ate it already. I was like, I saw you eat last night. What happened? And it's the unknown that just it's brutal in
Yeah.
this hobby, but it happens. I've got
Yeah.
another community, so yeah, there's just a bunch of tanks upstairs too.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just genetics. There's nothing you can do about it. These poor fish get so inbred. Um, Very few fish are really coming out from the wild. So their genetics are not as strong as stuff coming in from the wild that's got a little bit more diverse genetics. So it's not uncommon. That's the one thing I wish more new hobbyists understood, that there's not always a cause for the fish to die. Some just they just die. As long as your whole tank isn't dying, then a lot of the times it's just the fish wasn't, it was his time.
Yeah, and that's the rough part, especially when you start looking at the average lifespans. For example, my honeygrami, he's on my logo, so I loved him dearly. He died at about 2 years old when honeygrami should live to about 4, and I was heartbroken. I'm like, what did I do wrong? And my water company has been messing with my tap water, but
Hmm.
the rest of the fish in the tank were fine. And I was like, what happened here? And I made a whole post about it. And one dude was like, "Oh, you don't know how to set up a tank. It's unbalanced." Da, da, da. I'm like, dude, I haven't done a water change on this tank in like 4 or 5 months, and it's reading like no ammonia, no. I always flip the nitrate, no nitrate, and like a tiny bit of nitrite that the bacteria is converting. Unless I flip the two ends, whichever
Yeah.
one is the one on the test.
Yeah.
Um, like it's not the tank setup. I don't know what happened. And someone, I forget if it was on Instagram or TikTok, told me like because honeygramis have become so inbred, there's just a lot of times that they're just weak genetics, and it kind of breaks my heart. And that's a little bit of the mission I have too with Aquatic Ascent. I want to have really strong lines of fish and constantly be introducing new blood to try to keep inbreeding from becoming an issue.
Yeah.
Um, and learn a bit more about genetics as I go. I love science. I love learning stuff, but I was a social sciences major. I was a social worker, and now I'm moving into finance. I just love learning stuff. Um, so we're kind of seeing where that takes me.
Okay. Now, being that you're a really young guy, there's a lot of assumptions that get made with that. How
Oh,
how has that how has it been with you to deal with that? Because I'm assuming from just watching your videos, and this is obviously I'm going to start assuming things. You've been keeping fish for quite some time now.
yes
How
and no.
long? Okay.
So I did a if you watched my talk with
Yeah.
the like 20-minute talk I did at one of our Killy clubs, which I love that club dearly, but the average age, if you take me out of it, is probably like 88
I
there.
got some questions regarding that, but go ahead.
It's a very old club, but there are a lot of really cool guys. I see some insane killifish come through. But like it was kind of cool being able to speak. But being young, I feel like it's a double-edged sword because I can connect really, really well with some of the younger hobbyists that are trying to come in. And the one thing I'll do, I think people have issues with young hobbyists when they act like they know everything.
Mhm.
Personally, I don't think I know anything. I'm figuring stuff out as I go along, and I'm trying to share my process. Unless I've read some like well-researched stuff that's been passed down by some really like smart people. I'm subscribed to, oh my god, what's the magazine name? Tropical Fish Keeping Magazine,
Okay.
TFM, I think. And one of the members of our local club, Ted Coletti, just had an article published about Danios. Like if he's telling me some stuff and I share that, it's like, hey, this is what I've heard from some really killer fish keepers. So that's really where I go. So like I started fish keeping when I was young. I had goldfish in a tank they had no right being in because I was 5, and it's not my fault. YouTube, don't hate me. I was a 5-year-old that my parents took care of the tank, but I loved them. I got hooked. My parents, they split up, and my mom, to kind of deal with that, was like, oh, let's get you guys a bed of fish. And, we didn't have heaters for them, but they lived their whole lives. We made sure they were fed. We'd clean out the water. And, you slowly learned as you come along. And, now I'm at the point where I can take care of quite a few tanks and make sure that my fish are happy and healthy. And, still pass along some of that knowledge. I take a ton of inspiration from Keeping Fish Simple. Love that dude. Love his videos. He inspired a ton of what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. Being young, I haven't gotten much flack for it.
Nick, right? Nick is his name?
Nick.
Okay, yeah. So
I haven't gotten a ton of flack for it, but I also think that's because I don't believe I present myself as someone who knows everything. If I learn something and I really want to share it and I'm wrong, I'm happy to correct that. Like my Pacific rainbows down here, my signifers, I put them up as forktail. That's what they were labeled at the wholesaler. I'm still getting into the blue eyes. I want to do a lot more of them because they're super cool. But someone in my comments goes, I don't think those are forktails. I think they're signifers. I was like, all right, let me double check this. I looked up and I'm like, oh my God, wow, these actually really don't look like the forktails. Because I was wondering that when I looked up the forktails to check, like, hey, let me just make sure I've got my diet and everything right. I was like, oh, well, they have the yellow, but they don't really have the trapezoid fin. They have the tall one that splits up. I don't know. It kind of looks like a TIE fighter if you're a Star Wars fan.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And I was like, oh, these are signifers. Okay, my bad. Immediately across like all my platforms, I pinned my comment, I'm like, these are signifers. I have the wrong thing. I'm not going to go back in and completely re-edit this video because it's one short. And, frankly, I'm pretty small. If it was blowing up to like 1 million, I might say, hey, I need to go back and like do this. But if a couple hundred people see it and they see my pinned comment going, hey, I had the ID on these guys wrong. Admit when you're wrong. I have a whole highlight of just mistakes. I had a tank nuked by ick when I was, really starting to keep fish well. And, it kicked me right in the rear end. But, you share those experiences. No one hasn't gone through it. Everyone's screwed up. That's what I've learned. And you learn from screwing up.
Well, I was going to let you in a little secret. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. Nobody knows it all. There's just so many different species of fish out there that it's impossible. And they're finding new ones every time. So
yeah,
just because the assumption that somebody looks like my age or older is going to know everything there is to know about this hobby, they're full of it. And if they really believe that, then run away, because they're the least people you want to talk to. I'm the first one to tell you I don't know shit about this keeping. I'm still learning. I learn every day. I learn something new, whether it's good or bad. But every day I learn something new. And one of the good things about, and that's what I wanted to talk about, was the clubs. There's a wealth of knowledge that's there. Unfortunately, though, if for some reason we can't get them to pair up with technology to be able to spread some of that information. And God knows I've tried with some of the guys in my fish club, and trying to ask them on to be as a guest or something. Some of them will say yes, but we could never coincide on a date that'll work. And a lot of them are just kind of set, where they want to be left alone. And if you ask them, they'll tell you, but they're not going to go out of their way to share what they know. And unfortunately, there's a lot of those guys. But then again, you have people who are so giving, but it's no different than the community on social media. You're going to come across that. You're going to come across some people that will give you every ounce of information they have. And then you're going to come across some guys that are going to be like, well, no, you figure it out on your own. I had to. And so, it gets to that point where, you'll find the group of people that you're going to associate with, that you kind of connect with. And that's probably who will form part of your circle. But one of the things that I really was excited about watching your channel, like I said, is we always hear this comment: we wish there was younger people that got involved in the hobby. But the minute that sometimes they come on, they get kind of pushed away for some reason or another. But prime example, like you were saying, that you don't have all the knowledge because, or you feel that people don't give you credit for what you know. There's a young man in our community. His name's Ian. God, I hate the fact that I can't recall his channel name. Really young guy. Guy knows what I know would probably fit in this little pinky nail compared to the knowledge that he has, and he's probably 30 years younger than me. And but he just knows so much. It's incredible. Um, and I oh yeah, Aiken's Natural Aquariums. I look up to him just because of how much, and he's not one to tell you. He won't throw it in your face, and he'll hear you out. And if he feels you're making a mistake, he has a really cool way of telling you, "Yeah, I get that, but in reality, it can be like this." And I find that very admirable, especially from a younger kid that's smart enough that he figured out, all right, I know if I come off as being know it all, people are going to shut the doors to me. So he kind of, somebody, but he's a wise old wizard trapped in a boy's body. Yeah, I agree, Steven. It's incredible. He must read a ton, or he has this incredible ability to retain information. Because, I mean, he's, like I said, somebody that I really, really am quite impressed, especially because he's so young. And it's true. Unfortunately, us older people will sometimes make the assumption that it's like, what does this young guy know that I don't know already? And but no, I've been very fortunate that in the time that I've been here, I've learned that I can learn something from anybody, and I've never passed judgment on somebody until I hear them out and see what they have to say. Because there hasn't been an interaction that I've had with somebody that I haven't learned at least one thing and have walked away with a little bit more knowledge. So to me, I would say that at one point when I wasn't as wise, not that I'm any wiser now, but that I would go, this young kid, what is he gonna teach me? And I've learned very quickly. There's a lot I can learn from anybody. It doesn't matter what age or anything. We all have different experiences, and that's what's great about this hobby.
Yeah, that takes me back to the quote I start off my whole presentation with, from How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I'm going to completely butcher this now because every time I try to remember it, it just whoosh, empty brain. But Spark Notes is just, hey, anytime I interact with someone, I understand that they're going to know something better than me. Like a master of all, or a jack of all trades is a master of none kind of thing. But, that master of one teaching the jack of all trades a few things, it leads up. In a room full of fish keepers, I might be the best baseball player, especially dating some of the fellas in some of my clubs. But, in a room of baseball players, I'm probably the best fish keeper.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was like I said, it's just getting back to that speech that you've made. I loved it because everything you hit on is so true. What I would have paid money to is to see the face of the audience, because I know how some of the people are at fish clubs, especially somebody in my age group or older. To have somebody as young as you hit on the points that you were hitting on, how did they take it? Did you get a lot of pushback from that, or was it overall like willing to accept the fact that what you were telling them was true?
Like 50-50. I've got some grouches in there. One gentleman fell asleep, but for the most part, it was more positive. It was like, hey, we actually kind of do need to bring this forward. Which, ironically, at our last auction, we had this little 7-year-old acting as a runner. I think he's 7 or 8. He's like we gave him a little, hey, congratulations, like you're an honorary member now. But like we had some of the old guys complaining, oh, this kid's running all over the place. And this kid was having the time of his life. He got a couple new crayfish. I did a little interview on him. I'm really behind editing that because I am it's really hard to juggle, my socials, but then also trying to do it for the fish club. Even though I double dip, I go, all right, I'm posting it to my page and the club's page. I'm like, I just kind of don't want to cut that one down yet because it's a lot of footage. But he got super excited about his crawfish and stuff. He took a little like a little interview of him to use as the intro. And man, just seeing the joy in this kid, like, it makes me happy. And maybe that's also me being the social worker. Like, I used to work with youth struggling with substance use issues. So like, I've really got that heart for younger kids. I say that weird, like I'm 24, or 23. I'm not even 24 yet. I'm 23, but I'm still like, hey, you need to be that mentor. You need to guide the next generation. But I don't know. It was definitely a 50-50 to get back to that point. I got off topic. To get back to that point, it was kind of a 50-50 reaction. Some of them were like, oh, whatever. And then others like, oh, yeah, you know what? This kind of makes sense. Maybe I should talk to my grandkids. I think the biggest one was not discounting different kinds of fish because, oh, my God, you see so many people that are like, oh, he's bringing in guppies. But think about how excited that, young kid who just bred guppies. Like, how many people have guppies as their first fish bred? Most people, it's like a guppy, a molly, a swordtail, something that you got and accidentally bred. Like, oh my God, baby fish. And then the like dopamine spark hits, and now you have 23 tanks. But it's like, oh my God, this is so cool. I created life, and we love playing God in our glass box. But I got invited to do that talk again. I gave it at a different aquarium society. And, I don't know. I feel like it touches on a good few points, and there are tweaks I want to make here and there, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's neat. That's all I can say. It's such a 50-50 reaction each time. I had some people come up, the hobby's dying. There's no young people who want to get into it. And I'm like, I've seen you complaining about young people yourself. Like, you're the reason young people don't want to get into it, dude.
That's what I was going to get at. Because you know what? I think overall in our fish club up in Phoenix, that doesn't really seem to be the case. I think in general, I'd say about 80% are a lot more open. We have a ton of kids. Almost all the kids that come to our club meetings are almost designated to be runners because that's a way to get them.
Child labor. Get them in the shops.
It's something that allows them to participate, and you can tell their enthusiasm when they do it. Even Kyle mentioned that his daughter really got hooked by doing those kind of activities. What better way to get introduced to the different species by carrying the bags of the different fish to the people that are sitting at the tables, and get that little sense of a duty within the club. Yeah. So that's been kind of neat. But yeah, I get that everybody says we want this, but when the reality starts happening, there's a lot of pushback. And that's why I also wanted to talk to you in your comments and stuff like that. Do you find it that a lot of people are, kind of pushing back on your message?
Not usually. I don't know. Usually I feel like I have a lot of young people in my comments. Like when I look at my metrics, most people watching me are like 18 to 40. That's kind of the general age range. I have a few outliers, but for the most part, it's kind of people still around my age. And
you got one that's 100 and over?
I do. There's like the one person I'm like, dude, how are you? You lied when you were younger and you just chose a really far back date because you didn't understand how YouTube worked, or Instagram, whatever. But I found one of my biggest posts. It was like I think almost 800,000 people saw it on Instagram. Was just, hey, new fish keepers ask questions, veteran keepers answer them. There are like a couple thousand comments on that post, and I think I at least gave an answer to pretty much every single one of them. And most people just responded like gratefully, and some people jumped in and corrected me here, and I was like, and like a lot of them, they weren't exactly corrections. It was a, hey, here's a different way to do this, but they think it's the right way. Yeah. Because a lot of people think there's right ways to do things. Like there's 100 different ways to do the same thing in this hobby. If you want to pull eggs manually and throw some methylene blue in, cool. Like this rainbow tank right here. I said, I don't want to pick these eggs. I'm throwing them up in here. If the fry hatch, the fry hatch. And that succeeded. The methylene blue, which everyone's like, oh, you got to incubate your eggs. Make sure there's no fungus. All of them died. All of them dead. Because I was like, all right, I need to start doing water changes to pull the methylene blue out. Nope, lost like 200 fish. And that's, like $1,000 right there in a few months, which sucks because, I'd sell them for about $5 a pop to stores and probably like 15 if I shipped them. So it's just like, ouch, that hurt. But, the other mop's doing fine. They're growing up. Fingers crossed that 2 months, this tank has a lot more action in it. I see all the fry. Hopefully little Timmy there survives. He's my favorite fish, and he's going to die now because I said that.
Yeah, you know what? I've always been interested in how I'm assuming Dean from Aquarium Co-op, Master Breeder
Love
Dean.
Dean. Love
Okay,
Dean.
I know he's got that. But okay, that might make a little bit more sense because he's not necessarily doing a lot of water changes because he's got the trays, right? But the
Yep.
same water in the bottom is what's running through those trays. The reason what I'm trying to get at is, I think if you do a lot of new water changes on those small those trays, one of the things that's happening is you're getting rid of all the microfauna that's in that water column, and you're basically starving out your fish because then if you have it in a mature tank, kind of like what Dean does, he might do a 20 water percent change, but the bio load on these little fry, I think it's 0 to none. I mean, especially you have a 20-gallon tank.
Yeah, it's next to nothing with his system. It's awesome.
Yeah, so that I know I try to breed stuff, but I'm not breeding for profit. That's the big difference. And that's one distinction that needs to be made because you can breed for profit where you want to maximize the hatch rate and the success of growing out fish. And then there's, I guess, breeding for the experience, which I guess that's what I would do. And it's more like, okay, they bred in the aquarium. They had, 100 fry, but if I get 20 out of those 100, I am super satisfied. Because the goal wasn't to maximize the hatch. The goal was to learn the behaviors, learn the process of growing them out and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that I think doesn't really get talked about too much when some people is just trying to understand if you're going to be breeding, what's your ultimate goal? Are you trying to maximize the amount of fish, or are you just trying to learn the experience? And then if you have some extras, then you can sell them. So that's those two different types of breeders would have two different types of setups, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree on that spot. I know I still have to do manual water changes here. I have a bit of an easier way with my Python, but long term, I'm hoping to move out within the next few years. I'm going to be setting up a fish room. I plan on plumbing that for auto water changes just because I do want to maximize like output of a bunch of different species. But there's always the project tanks. Like I just picked up some pygmy corridors today where realistically I can't breed those on the scale that like what's the farm down in Florida?
Seagram.
Yeah. I can't breed them on that scale or what they do overseas in like Indonesia and such. Seagrass, that's the one.
Yeah, seagrass. Seagram is a drink.
Like I won't be able to breed them at that level to make it profitable because they're sold for 50 cents a fish, where to wait a couple months for maybe I get 100 fish at 50 cents, like $50 in a tank after a few months doesn't really make sense for like a small breeding for profit individual. But I love pygmy cories. They're super cute. So they're going to be more of a project fish that is like, hey, maybe these get sold out on Reddit and they're bred under. I just set them up where it's going to be a CPD grow out tank. Like the CPDs are meant to make me money, but I got to utilize as much tank space as possible, especially, starting off. And finding that balance has been a huge struggle, actually. Probably the biggest struggle because I always get that shiny object syndrome. I think taking it kind of coming through my process. My plan was shrimp. My plan was shrimp to make me some money to move into the fish I want to do, mainly plecos because I love plecos. And my shrimp didn't succeed. I actually think the reason for that too, I have an older house and I don't have RO. So I think there is a little bit of copper that was leaching in, which might have caused it. Because other than that, like I have 7.6, my GH was, oh my God, it was like 3 or 4. But then my KH was really high.
Now, are you breeding Caridinas?
No, these were Neos. Neocaridinians.
Interesting. I call them the roaches of the water because they're hard to kill.
I know, and that's what blew my mind. That's what I was like. I was running through everything. I'm like, what on earth could it possibly be? Because they all kicked off at least one batch of babies. Every single
Oh,
colony, when I introduced them to my water, they all got buried at least once. I saw fry, I grew them up. I got my breeder points for them. Like, awesome. I was able to raise them. Like, they weren't dying as babies. But then after that first batch, they were like, no more babies for you. So I was like, all right, let me try. I don't do a ton of water changes on those tanks, especially because it's filled with moss. I mean, like, there's so many plants in there with the pothos roots that I don't really need to touch the water, especially because they like stability. I'm not really overfeeding them because there's no need to just chuck food into a shrimp tank because they're going to munch on that biofilm. They're
yeah.
constantly grazing. You know, you don't need to go insane about it. You feed them 2-3 times a week until the colony gets huge. Then you're like, all right, now I got to feed daily because there's hundreds of shrimp in this tiny tank. But I'm going through everything. I'm problem solving. And finally, I'm talking to my buddy at a fish club meeting. And he goes, do you think there might be copper in your tanks or in your water because it's just old? I'm like, you know what? I never thought about that. And my copper test kit was expired and there's none around me. But it's like the last variable where I'm like, it's Neos. It's Neos. Like, they shouldn't be a problem. Why is that what I'm having an issue with?
You didn't have a big temperature, fluctuation or anything like that.
No, I usually keep them just room temperature, and then I have my heaters set to 70 just in case it, gets cold, because down here is in the basement. But like,
Now, did we mention where you're located?
Oh yeah, I'm in Jersey, North Jersey. So, we do get some colder winters, but I have a heater down here too where I can heat the room. And not to mention that the water heater for my house is right in the next room, which sets off enough temperature to really kind of keep the house warm.
Yeah.
Especially down here. So I'm like, all right, I'm not getting huge fluctuations. I walked through that. I start walking through my parameters. I'm like, all right, was there an ammonia spike? Is there any disease? Couldn't find any disease. Couldn't see any like parasites. No planaria. No hydra even. There's hydra in one of my tanks. I'm like, whatever.
Even planaria and hydra are not going to wipe out your colony overnight. I mean,
so it's not going to happen. It slowly trickled down. I had like 28 golden backs, and they were beautiful. I have 4 left a few months later. Where'd they all go? No idea. Why aren't they buried? No clue. So it's one of those things that I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a step back now. I asked Santa for an RO unit. So, maybe I'll give him another touch and just, you know what, I'm going to RO the shrimp just to be on the safe side. And I'm trying to put a lot more focus into my rainbows, which it's kind of like flushed out back here. But this tank, I've got some dwarf neons that are kicking. I've got my blue eyes, my signifers, and I'm going to really focus on those 3 species, the CPDs and my 2 rainbows, and then just kind of let my pleco tanks go do their thing. And then, reevaluate in a few months. If these guys are doing well, if I'm able to keep constantly rearing fry, growing them up, I'm hatching plenty of brine shrimp, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, no. The only thing with the RO water, you're gonna have to deal with having to remineralize.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I have some of the neocaridinea remineralization I picked up. Some lady I found this girl on Reddit on AquaSwap, and she was like, "Hey, I'm selling all these tanks, $150." It was like 3 tanks with God knows, like, I got so much value out of that. And then I didn't even know, she threw in all her fish keeping supplies because she just had to like move out real quick because of a breakup. And she's like, I can't take these with me where I'm going. I want them to go to a good home. So like, I got a ton of the remineralization stuff. I just got so many supplies, and I'm like, wow, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with all these because they're not really relevant now. I guess I'm just going to hoard them like many fish keepers do.
Yeah, no, I like having so many fish because they're like bargaining chips. You're always going to find somebody else that's looking for what you got, and you can trade it for some cool stuff.
That's how I got these rainbows. I'm like, oh, I'm breeding these blue eyes, and one grouchy member is like, I don't really want to put these in the auction today. He looks at me, he's like, yeah, you know what? I like you. Do you want these? I heard you're breeding these new rainbows. I'm like, yeah, I am. He goes, cool. Here's 4 full-grown fish. They're breeding. just give me some rainbows with some of the Signifer babies when you get them. I'm like, okay. And I just kind of carried on with my day. I'm like, I didn't see. I'm like, I'm not going to spend any money. No new fish. Like this rack, I literally filled the tanks with water maybe 2 days before. And I'm like, well, I don't have anywhere to put them except that tank. So I just kind of popped them in through a spawning mop. I was like, all right, we're just going to keep an eye on this water and make sure it stays all right. And, they've aged it in. They're doing well. I squeezed out some filter media from one of my other tanks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there we go. Tanks seeded. It's fine. They're doing all right. They've pumped out so many babies already. I've had so many.
Here's another thing to look out for your fish, Foxy. Foxy and her husband Brian, which is Peplin Aquatics, they do really well breeding fish. So I would heed any advice that they give you. I would definitely take it into consideration because they do a really good job. Not only that, they're probably some of the best shippers that I've come across when it comes to shipping fish. Now that's one thing I wanted to ask, because you mentioned that you got some shipping supplies. Is that something that you're looking to do, or have you tried it already, or what's your status on shipping?
So that's kind of how I started off. I started off with plant trimmings, and plants really made me the most money this year. Then I had the algae issues in my one tank, and like I said, I'm not willing to sacrifice quality to make a buck here and there, because like I feel like if you screw someone over, we're such a small hobby. Like it's so easy to get the word around. Like, hey, this dude sent me like Anubias covered in blackbeard algae, and it's like if I got sent that, I would want someone's head. Like, dude, I just paid like $20 for this nice newer Anubias, and it's covered in blackbeard algae. And like people will ghost you. Like there are some people like that. I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those guys. Ultimately, money can't trump that.
Which I don't understand, because like you said, even though it's a big community, it's not really that big. I mean, word travels quick.
Yeah.
That's something that I've learned in the short 3 years that I've been doing this. Word gets around. If you're somebody who's dishonest, people are that's the first thing you're gonna find out. It's just kind of like, so you might want to look elsewhere, because their reputation is not good. But then on the other hand too, if you, like I said, I have no qualms recommending Roxy and her husband Brian, because they do it so well. And it's what's really neat is I can look down this chat community, and I can point out people that I've received stuff for 100%, no issues. Seldom. I never got anything dead from Roxy. I didn't get anything dead from Jeff K. It's amazing. And it's funny because you look at some of the other bigger stores that do mass volume of shipping, and the one common denominator is there's always casualties. I don't know what it is. I don't know if somebody was talking about the bigger stores don't necessarily worry too much about quarantining stuff. They just want to flip it right around. I don't know what it is, but the reality is I've had more success buying from people like, small businesses like yourself and like the ones that I mentioned, than from buying from a bigger recognizable name where it never fails. It's just, you're going to get some, if you ordered 10, 8 are going to be okay, and at least 2 will be dead, if not more. And I see it all the time when people do unboxings.
So I think the best word of advice I ever got, a podcast I love is the Aquarium Guys podcast. I'm pretty active over in that community, if anyone's familiar. I got to chat with Daku Aquatics a bit. I actually have his egg catcher down with my CPDs, but I've ordered from him a few times, and he went on and he did a whole spiel on his business, because he's been able to scale it up really, really well. And he talks about always trying to keep like a hobbyist happy. So like a shrimp, it's a 10+2 pack. So even if there's a dead on arrival, boom, it's there. Hey, if something does arrive dead, which I doubt it will, I'm replacing it for you at no cost to you. And he really puts that customer experience above all else. And that's something I tried emulating really strongly with my product. And then, shrimp tanks crashed and ouch. But another thing I think really helps the small businesses, if you only have, 20 tanks, it sounds like a lot when you're looking, oh my God, wow, he's got 20 tanks. But look at the bigger fish facilities. They've got hundreds upon hundreds. So maybe I get one batch of these rainbows growing up. If you're the last person who buys from me and I send like my last 10 to you, it's months until I can send you a new one unless I give you a refund. So like I've really got to make sure I pack it well, insulate it well, get the heat packs in there during the cold months, and kind of learn how to ship. One thing I haven't done yet is ship live fish. All I've shipped are plants and shrimp. And I sent shrimp during that crazy heat wave that I didn't realize you guys were having out west. I actually sent it to like Arizona in like this past summer. And I was just like, and like I heard something on the radio that like after I'm driving home from dropping them off at the post office, they're like, yeah, it's getting really hot in Arizona. And I'm like, oh, well, I just sent shrimp to Arizona. And then they got delayed in the mail.
Yeah.
And they arrived not a single dead on arrival. I'm like, awesome. But another thing I've done is, especially on AquaSwap, I say, hey, before I sell something, like when I got the aquariums from her, she had so many shrimp in them that I sold off a lot of those shrimp. And that's what I shipped out as practice. I said, hey, I'm going to give you these shrimp like dirt cheap, even though they're pretty nice, but I'm not including a dead on arrival because I need to learn how to ship, and kind of just being open about that, saying, hey, I'm learning, I'm going to experiment here. You're going to get them dirt cheap, but I won't have my normal dead on arrival policy because instead of selling them to you for $4, you're getting them at like $1 a shrimp, which, you can't really beat that when you're getting pretty shrimp too.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm doing. There's someone who's looking for rainbows. So before I actually start shipping these rainbows out, if my local stores don't clear me out of them because they are all excited about getting them, there's some guy over down in Texas that said, hey, I'm really looking for these on AquaSwap. And I said, hey, it's a few months out. I just had fry, but in like 3-4 months, once they're grown out, would you let me send them to you? Like, you just cover the shipping cost and I'm going to send you like 10 fish and we'll make sure that they get there. And you can tell me how many arrived all right. And if something is an issue, I'm trying again, but on my dime. And he's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So that quality control is a huge thing, especially when starting something small, and trying to be profitable, because if stuff doesn't show up alive, you got to lose money to keep that customer happy. Otherwise, word's going to spread and you're going to be out of luck.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked because I was looking at I can't believe I didn't have Foxy as a moderator. Oh, for those of you that are just coming in, the reason you became a moderator is I've learned this from Father Fish. It's not something that I did on my own, but I try to make everybody in the chat a moderator so that you can have direct access to anybody you see in the chat. And if you want to go see their channel and check them out, what they're all about, it'll give you the opportunity to do that without having to wait for a moderator to drop the link. That's why you'll notice if you have a blue wrench on next to your name, that means that you can access any of the names you see in this chat, and it'll give you the option to go to their channel and check them out. And if you like what they're doing, then give them a sub. It's for me, it's a way that I like to be able to interact and be able to get to know more people. So that's why when I see somebody, I can't believe I didn't have Foxy as a moderator, but I fixed that now. Sorry about that.
No worries. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely something that's a little bit challenging, especially the actually making a profit part. I think we saw a big influx, especially during COVID, of people trying to get into this hobby just to make money. And that's just not what you want to do. You're not going to make money in this hobby if you don't actually enjoy it, because you do really need to have like a thorough understanding of stuff before, diving into it. A fish gets sick, if you don't really know anything about it, because you're like, I just want to make as much money as possible. Yeah, you could approach it from a business standpoint, but if you don't enjoy it, it's not something that's going to be there, especially because you're playing with like lives. These are live animals.
Well, I think it's even simpler than that, because again, it goes back to what you were saying about word of mouth. If you don't provide very good customer service, you might get that first sale, but you won't get the repeat sale. And I think that's, as a small business, the one thing that really needs to stand out is that customer service. If you, even if for some reason something happens along the way, but you're in constant communication, you're doing the right things, people will give you another opportunity. It's the people, like you said, that'll, you know, but they'll sell it to you and then they just ghost you, they disappear. Those
Yeah.
people quickly run out of a business. They, you know, because word travels so quick, especially the bad stuff gets around quicker than anything good that you could have possibly have done for the last 10 years.
That's
People,
everything though, no matter
yeah,
what.
and that's not just the community here. I'm talking just in general. You know, people will always find out of the bad things that you do before they ever find out about the good things you've done. So
Yeah. You always remember them too. I still hold a grudge against my mother for 6th grade. You know, no, 4th grade, she forced me to play lacrosse and I hated it. Like, I lasted a practice, not even. And I'm going home. I hate this because I'm a baseball player. It's like same season. It was that rivalry. You're a baseball player or a lacrosse player. My mom
yeah,
played lacrosse when she was little. My dad played baseball. I fell in love with baseball. Didn't even want to try lacrosse. She's like, you're trying it. I'm signing you up. Still
all
hold
right.
a grudge against her for that. But I came back 6th grade. I'm like, all right, I'll give it an honest shot. Hated it. Like, insane. I'm like, wow, I just like really tired myself out playing baseball and lacrosse, and I hated half of my time. So I still give a crap about that here and there. It's not like a malice grudge I hold, but I still hold that.
All right, so we're going to take a little left turn here since you brought this up. What position did you play?
Yes is the right answer. Um,
Okay,
I was that kid who plays
utility.
everywhere. I still
Yeah.
play in a men's league. Like, third base is my bread and butter. I love third no matter what. I just kind of always had that snap reaction time. But I do
Okay.
have this dirty knuckleball when I pitch, and that thing just whoo moves all over the place. And my arm, I blew out my arm. My labrum's torn from 9 o'clock to 3. So for
Okay.
the longest time, I could only lift my arm like this high after high school. I started working out more and I have like full range of motion again. Never got surgery, but like, yeah, I can swing my arms. um, but I caught even like we had 2 catchers, and then our catcher left. So there was me and like one other kid who could catch, but we run out of pitchers. So the kid who was catching has to go pitch, and then I have to go catch after throwing 6 innings with my arms starting to hurt again because I got lazy about working out. And the muscles that were compensating weren't as strong anymore. And yeah, give me a position, I'll play it. The only one I
Okay.
never played was first because I never really bought a first baseman's mitt, but I've played every other position at least for a season.
Well, you obviously didn't play in Mexico because you'll be lucky if you had a glove. Yeah, no, we had. This is no joke. I remember playing one team and they had a catcher's mitt at first base because that's the only glove they had available.
You make it work. That's what baseball was meant to be. It's you grab a stick and you stuff a sock full of other socks. You can play baseball in an alley. It's like
Yeah,
soccer or football. Like, it's something where you can make it out of clothes and you should be able to play really anywhere. Now it's in America, at least, it's just stupid expensive. Everyone wants their Evo shields and their $200 bat. I'm like, get a wooden stick, and if you can hit with that, you can hit with anything. Same thing as dodge a wrench, dodge a dodgeball. Just play with a stick. You'll get better.
that's what I always found interesting because I grew up literally on the border. Um, so I would go to school in the United States, but the rest of the time I was living in Mexico full time. And my uncles have always played baseball. So down there they have men's league too. But the difference is there really is no age restriction. So I was playing with adults since about 14. And we were because it was just kind of like it's the family team. And they kind of progress you to work and start playing a position. You always start in right field.
Yep.
That's where
They
that's
got
where
to
the
hide
player,
you.
yeah, that's where, and they pray the ball never gets hit in that direction.
We had a
And
59-year-old out in right field for our men's league this last season. He could hit nukes, but he could not field.
so you're playing out in these empty lots where there's just rocks, bottle caps, broken glass bottles. there is no such thing as a level playing field. I mean, it's just you learn very quickly to be quick on your hands and feet to be able to react at the change of direction of the ball. Because if you don't, you're going to be toothless. You know, it's the ball's going to hit you right in the mouth. So growing up, that's the way I learned how to play. I remember once I got to high school, which was the first time I played organized baseball in the States. I had been playing baseball all my teenage years in Mexico. And even as a little kid, but not playing organized baseball, you know, you go to the practices and doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember we were doing the tryouts, and half of the kids there were complaining about, oh, you know, the field's a little bit, it's got a dip over here. It's got, and I'm looking at them like, what are you talking about? The field has got grass. It's got base paths. It's got in the ground stuck bases. It's not just a little pillow, a cushion that when you slide into it goes flying off. You know, it was a whole different culture that I was thinking, how can these guys be complaining about playing on a designated field where I'm coming from playing in the back lot of an empty property where they made a makeshift field. The backstop was like chicken wire put together with 2x4s. You know, it was, and the ball half of the time got stuck in there, and you're trying to go back there and retrieve it so that you can throw out the guy that's going to second. You know, so to me that was very interesting. Now, I don't know if the fact that I was playing in these poor condition fields, that playing on a regular field made it so easy for me. It was like it was I didn't know what a bad hop was. They didn't have bad hops on on a field that got dragged before the game and stuff like that. So to me, it was like an upgrade, and to me it was like playing in the major leagues compared to the fields that I was playing in. And so I never got it. And the whole thing, I understand the whole bat thing. We maybe had 3 or 4 bats for the entire team, and that was it. You know, you didn't have all. I had a hand-me-down glove that I kind of strung together with work boot laces, you know, and that made that work. That's what you had, and you played with it. So and even when I was playing then, it wasn't as bad as it is today, where you look at these kids and they got stuff on, they got protection. They wear oven mitts for sliding.
Yeah, for
I don't know
sliding,
when
the
that became a
stupid sliding
thing.
gloves.
It's like, why are you wearing a mitt? You know,
Towards the end of me, like getting towards the end of high school when I'm finishing up travel, that's when I started seeing a lot of that kind of kick up. Maybe like 2017-ish, 2018, I feel like it really started picking up. And I'm just like, dude, get some man hands. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I you know what? And it was funny. And I know it's got to be MLB that started doing this, because that's what always would happen. Is whatever the players are doing there, that it always trickles down to all
well,
the,
it sells
you know.
more. Now you can sell mitts to every kid. Oh, you got to make sure your kid buys their $40 sliding mitt. It's like, dude, I'm going to have my kid go just rub his hand in some dirt and he'll be fine.
Well, that was the whole thing. You were lucky if you had, you know, the medical tape to wrap the handles on the bat. That was about as far as the technology. You know, there was always batting gloves, but you would tear through them so quick. If you're lucky, you started the season out with a pair. You know, 4 games into the season, they were gone. You know, they were just. I mean, you would tape them. I mean, well, at least that's what I did, because I couldn't buy another set. So I was just tape them up. So the palm was gone, but the only thing you were taping up was, you know, where you were wrapping your hands around the barrel of the bat, and you made it work. You know, it was. I had one pair of cleats the entire 4 years in high school.
I still have my high school cleats.
I didn't get a new pair. I didn't get a new pair of cleats until probably halfway through the season of my junior college year, and that was because they used to give us the allowance, the $20 for meal whenever we travel, and instead of spending it on meals, I would save it up. I got around to where I was able to save up enough money to buy a nice pair of cleats. But that was it. You know, you hit with what you had. As the equipment you had is what you used. We had one helmet that we all shared. And, you know, some guys were wearing the helmet that fit like this, you know, other guys, the helmet's all the way down here, but that's what you had. You got to first base, you toss it back to the batter. But it is now, I hear this whole thing, it's gotten so expensive. Parents are putting the kids in travel ball. They're spending thousands of dollars on a season. It's like, this is bananas. But
all because and their kid sucks too. That's the worst part. That's the worst. But when you're on a travel ball team and you've got a kid that just like they'd be hitting in right field in rec league, you're like, dude, I feel so bad for your parents' wallets. And
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if travel. I guess travel ball at one point was a lot more competitive. Now it's a money dump, and
yep,
it's really not really producing good players. It's producing, uh, you know, weak players, in my opinion, because
whiners.
you just take them out of their comfort zone and they can't play anymore. They don't have that oven mitt to be able to slide in the second. Oh, all of a sudden they can't play ball. It's like, nope, sorry.
My favorite thing one of my coaches told a kid, he's like complaining about a bad hop. Like he just this kid made a ton of errors, but his dad had money, so he got to play third over me, and I got put wherever else. Like that's the season I played second base because Timmy's dad had more money than me, and like he just make 4 errors a game. Like it would just be like catching the third base lip, and it was always it's a bad lip, it's a bad this, and finally the coach was like, no, you just suck. It's the coach snapped. It's like, no, you just suck. Still didn't put me there over him, but at least he told him that he sucked. I'm like, you know what? A win's a win. I'll take that.
Yeah, no, it was just I always found it fascinating how different the sport was for me growing up, and then finally when I got to play in the stateside. Now I get it. Now I get it why you get these guys that are coming out of like the Dominican Republic, out of Puerto Rico, out of all these Central America. Uh, they're playing in the same conditions that I was playing in Mexico, and you start hitting some of the stateside. Even the worst field is like the best field you've ever played on, and finally you get to have a piece of equipment that is actually yours. It's not the community's equipment. So I don't know. I just always found it that interesting. Um, you know, I was very fortunate. I got to play up until organized organized baseball till probably about 32, and then I played softball. But in Mexico, they play fast pitch. It's like women's play here in the states. And
Not
I got
the Eufus.
no, no, no. I hated that. I couldn't hit the ball. I could not hit the ball, and it used to frustrate me because I could hit a fastball, but I couldn't hit the damn lob. It's a whole different technique, and
Yeah.
I never really had the will to learn it. I thought it was just kind of like whatever. It used to rub me the wrong way because everybody would hit bombs, and they would make it seem like it was a big deal. And to me, it was always like, no, I want you to see to hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball and hit that same bomb, and then we'll talk. But it was just I just never. I tried it. I played in a few teams at tournaments, stuff like that. Defensively, I was fine, but I could never turn my success that I had on playing baseball or softball translate over to slow pitch. I just I hit line drives, but never the type of shots that I would be able to hit if I was playing either fast pitch or baseball. But
Yeah.
that's enough baseball talk. People are here for the fish. No, but I wanted to talk to you about that because I noticed you had mentioned it in one of your videos. That was kind of, I think it was your introductory video where you made mention of that. I said, oh, that's pretty cool.
I think so. I'm trying to think back. I know I only have like 3 videos up, but like every day I edit a new short, and I'm like, all right, I kind of want to move away from the shorts and more into the, longer form YouTube videos because I thought I wouldn't enjoy them as much, and I'm really liking it so far.
Yeah. And so that was one of the things. And the other thing, like I said, I was really impressed with the speech you did at the talk that you did at the club, um, especially because you were talking on a lot of subjects that were so true, and you normally don't hear them coming from the younger groups or participants of the fish club, and for that I thought that was really neat that you were willing to do that. The other thing I wanted to ask, but I think it kind of I think you've kind of answered that because it seems like you seem very comfortable in front of the camera. Are you used to talking to groups of people, or is
Yeah,
that just
I'm really just social. Period. Group pride, like the presentations. I was always the one talking in school because I love just sharing what I
mhm,
know. Besides that, for like a year or so, I was live streaming on Twitch while I was playing a lot of Apex Legends. I got to like, I think top 5% of Twitch, which it sounds really impressive, but it's like, hey, 20 average viewers. But like, if you can keep a room of 20 people entertained, that's not an easy task to do. And I feel like, you kind of got to put that in perspective. So I've always kind of had a knack for doing it. It's something I feel really comfortable doing. Um, Usually I'm trying to stop talking because I can go on tangents. So, like I said, with the YouTube videos, it's kind of nice. I can go on a tangent, but then I can go back and cut out all the fluff that I'm like, all right, Chris, you didn't need to say that part. But if you're stuck with me live, I get to ramble. But even like I just put up a video earlier today on using terracotta pots in tanks, just because I feel like a lot of new fish keepers, like you see them in a lot of old school videos. They're so versatile. They're awesome. Like they don't really think about it, but it's like a 12-minute video and something I think I'm like, it could have been a 6-minute video. But the thing is, I cut that down to 12 minutes from like 45 minutes of me talking about clay pots. And I'm like, dude, no one wants to listen to you talk about clay pots for 40 minutes. Let's cut out the fluff. And yeah, I'm trying to learn that on my own. Yeah, so I can make those cuts before post.
well, I think the great thing about the clay pots is if you're trying to do breeding for profit, you get the added benefit of having live plants in your aquarium, but they're in a position where you can move them in and out of the tank and be able to retrieve whatever it is you're trying to grow out or spawn
Yeah.
or whatever the case is. And I think that's something that is great, especially if somebody's interested in trying to get into breeding. Unlike mine are all planet, and but then again, that's where I was telling you my process is very different than somebody that's trying to maximize, um, you know, the I guess maximize the spawn or the growth of the fry. Whereas I'm pretty content if out of a group like that I get 20. That's pretty good for me. But then again, I do sell, and I sell some of the stuff here locally. Or I'll take if I have too much of something, I'll take it to a fish club meeting. But more than anything else, it's kind of like that's the stuff that keeps me entertained in my fish room. Keeps me from getting bored, um, which is why I have way too many tanks. Uh, I have two more tanks that would somebody would consider healthy, but it's for the same reason because I like tinkering with stuff in here, but I also really do enjoy just watching. You know, I've got my racks where I have the tanks that I'll just sit there and enjoy them just because I think they're pretty cool. You know, so but yeah, that was just kind of my take on that. Uh, there was something else I wanted to ask that was talking about. I know you said, okay, you're in the process of gaining career paths. Is that what you were talking about?
Yep.
Now, ultimately, is is this section of the hobby just going to be like a side hustle for you until you decide that you no longer want to be employed, or is it something you really want to take off early and ditch whatever it is you're doing and dedicate 100% to the fish industry?
So that's kind of a big question mark for me,
Mm,
honestly.
yeah.
Kind of the same way I've had that mesh of like my bristlenose tank over there. It's like you said, it's planted out. I mean, not horribly. Like I can really remove all of the stuff really quick, but you know, I'd still have to break down the tank enough to get to a lot of fry. Where I need to find that balance of I need to start mixing. Um, I need to start focusing more on like actually breeding out larger quantities rather than making stuff look really aesthetically pleasing.
Okay.
Because I started taking this off as a side hustle, and now I kind of have the question mark in my head of, this would be kind of nice full time. I'm in between jobs right now. I moved from social work to a position at a financial firm and decided this place isn't the right fit for me because they're focusing really heavily on insurance products, and I think those come later on in like your financial planning process. And I was like, all right, this isn't a fit for me. I decided to step back. I got my SIE, which is the Security Industries Essentials, so like I could go work at a Fidelity, a Charles Schwab, like anywhere for the most part, and get my other licenses to do like mutual funds and such. And that's kind of more where I want to go, the whole holistic side of planning, because I care about people. I'm from a pretty affluent area. That's the only issue. Like my town, my parents got in when they were young before it really took off, and like they got the house at like 200,000, and now it's worth like 8. Like to get around here, you need a higher salary, and I can't get that as a social worker. So I made the decision to start moving into the position of a financial planner. I started taking the education courses to become a certified financial planner, which I like started at the top. I did enough research, but not enough. I just kind of went on my dad's best friend who did this route as like a CPA, but he managed a bunch of CFPs. And I was like, all right, I'll start my CFP classes then. Right out of college, started that because I just need a 4-year degree. Then if I complete those courses and get 6,000 hours in the field, I get those 3 letters next to my name, which pushed me up to easily a 6-figure range where, social work, I was making 43,000 a year, which is brutal. I saw something come up on my screen. What's my feeling on Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Personally, I hate crypto. I know there's a space for it. It's just not something I want to touch. It's like relating it to fish keeping. I don't like cichlids, like period. I just don't really like African cichlids, so I don't keep them. Yeah. My feelings on crypto are, some people get it. It's not my thing. I don't think it really has a place. I'm very much a, let's get a nice group of funds. And this isn't financial advice, by the way. This is just my personal opinion on stuff. I like getting, hey, let's get a group of funds. We're going to ride the S&P 500. We don't need to pick individual stocks. You're not timing the market. Anyone who says they can beat the market is full of crap. They'll beat it for a year or two. Then most likely they'll underperform. Like time and time again, that's what the data shows. Like, crypto is, if you understand it, good for you. If you want to let it ride, I feel like it's more like going to the casino than anything. So, like, if you want to get into it, cool. I know the whole Trump, I don't want to get super political either. Like, this is a fish podcast. We're here to talk about fish. But like Trump and Elon really want to push crypto in the new administration. And I'm like, if they do, good for them. If it makes people a ton of money in crypto, good for those people. I probably won't be one of them because it doesn't sit right in my stomach. I don't really like the whole crypto atmosphere. I think most of the coins are shit coins. Bitcoin, okay, it's been stable for years. Like if you're putting some money into Bitcoin, you'll probably make some money. Like it's probably not bad for you, but if you're putting all your money in Bitcoin, I think you're making a serious mistake. That's just the opinion of some 24-year-old career changer. So, you know what? Take it with a grain of salt. If you want to say I'm an idiot, be my guest. Please let me know in my comment section. It's still interaction. It counts. Pushes the video. Call me an idiot. Go ahead. I have thick skin.
Yeah, the whole Bitcoin. I must be old-fashioned because there's something about fake money that's not backed by. I don't know what it's back. I guess it's a lack of knowledge, but it's like, nah.
So like the U.S. dollar, because the U.S. dollar isn't backed by anything.
No,
either.
it was backed
took
by
off the gold
oil.
Standard. Everything went downhill from there.
Yeah, but that's like I said. You're probably right. That's a path we don't want to travel down because it's going to bore everybody else and piss off the half of the other.
Yeah, personally, like going into that, if someone said, "Hey, I want to do a lot of crypto," I'm going to say, "Hey, here are the upsides, here are the downsides." Upsides for me are, there's a lot of growth potential. You might make a ton of money. Here's the downsides. You also might lose it all. Would you rather just go to the casino with your buddies? Because that sounds a lot more fun than watching your Coinbase screen or whatever. Like, go let it all ride on black. Go ahead.
Yeah. But, getting back to, and I know you mentioned you don't like the African cichlids. So
yeah,
what are the type of species that you like to keep and that, that you're kind of breeding and working on?
So my water comes out the tap at like 7.6 and it's really hard. So it's perfect cichlid tank water. If I just throw some crushed coral in, like a lot of people in town have cichlids and I'm like, I don't know. They just don't do it for me. They all look like the same fish with different color variations. I love changes in shape. My girlfriend says she says it best. She's like, I like fish, but like I like fish that don't look like fish. So like some of my favorite species, coolie loaches, they're up there in my top 5. I adore those little noodles. I have 8 of them up in my community tank. But then I also love tetras. They're fish-looking fish, but there's a bunch of different ones. They're not something I've really messed with spawning yet. Right now, kind of just focusing on the rainbows, CPDs. But I love my plecos. I've got my bristlenose that I've got 2 different, color morphs, and they're both long fins, which is nice. I've got some live bearers, words are hard, that I'm just kind of going through to get my breeder points too, because I want to get my breeder points at my local fish club. I'm like, all right, I'll check off the live bearers. Like, they're kind of neat. I just picked up some mollies the other day. But personally, what my jaw just drops at, like, I love discus. I want to get into discus one day. I don't really want to mess with them yet. I want to start making some money consistently, but that's going to be an experiment I do. And I'm sure if I crash and burn, people will find it entertaining content because they're going to go, "Ha, look at this idiot who just killed his $400 fish." But, ouch, I don't even want to think. That hurts my soul to think about. But like zebra plecos, I love the different L numbers. The cracked snow whites. I want to breed out a couple different types of rarer plecos just because I think they're really cool. And then cories. I love cories, but they're kind of a pain in my experience so far. I think that might be the water. I've got my bronze cories back here. The easiest cory to breed. I've fed them up on black worms and baby brine shrimp for like 2 weeks, some frozen bloodworms, did a couple 50% water changes at I literally measured it out. I'm like, all right, 5 to 6 degrees cooler. All right, cool. I'm going to cool that off. We're going to do like a 50% water change. A storm pressure comes through. I'm like, cool. It's going to rain. It's supposed to snow tonight. So I'm going to do another 50% water change tonight to hopefully spawn them. But I don't know. They're finally starting to come out. Like, they're finally starting to not hate me. But they just won't lay eggs. And I'm like, come on.
Well, here's the thing. You might not be seeing them lay eggs because they'll eat them.
Yeah, I know they're big spawn robbers. I've got a floating mop, a sinking mop, the glass. I'm hoping to just see one in the mornings. I try to come down here early, take a look, see if they're going through their little dance. No luck so far. I don't know how old they are. I got them for free. Someone was breaking down a room and they were like, I need to get rid of these. Someone please take them. And I looked, I'm like, hey, where are you from? Like, oh, the town next to you. I'm like, be there in 5 minutes. So I just kind of they fell into my lap. And I'm like, all right, I have them now. I wasn't planning on breeding them for a bit because I needed space. But if life gives you if life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Anyways, turn your lemonade into lemons. And yeah, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to mess with them because what I want to do long-term is pandas. Pandas are probably my favorite cory just because I think they're adorable. They're such little cuties. And hopefully mass produce some of them and see what I get because it's just so cool. Like I said, I love keeping fish simple. The YouTube channel and just...
That's okay if you like Nick too. That's not a problem.
I love Nick. And just seeing his tanks when he has all the babies going through, I'm like, whoa! And then the last one, which kind of goes more to the African cichlids, I really want to breed the Synodontis pelliculara. I think I'm not butchering that. The dwarf ones.
Upside down. Yeah.
And a local store has them, but they take 3 years to grow out. So I'm like, all right, I need to make money before I buy them and start growing them out. I want to do so much, and I need to really reel myself in. That's been a huge challenge lately. And I say that I picked up new fish today. I've got a problem. Jorge, I have a problem. And I really need to focus on actually turning a profit because I'm still pulling from my own money, my own cash, my own little other side hustles. Because I do landscape work on the side too. I'm just always running around. I've always been a hustler. So it's I'm like, all right, I need to stop buying fish until I make money from the fish I have. And
well, I got bad news for you, Chris. You're doing this for the love of the game.
Yeah, I know.
The profit margins are very slim, especially look, if you could find somebody there locally that'll take your fish, like a LFS, you'll probably be better off because once it comes to shipping, a lot of the profit margin gets eaten up by the shipping.
Yeah,
it's just, and it seems that it's not getting any better. It always seems like it's just getting more and more expensive. And not only that, it's especially well, this is probably because of this time of the year, but it's become more unreliable where
Yep.
they'll tell you it's supposed to be there in 2 to 3 days, and a week later you're trying to still track down where that package is at. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a problem that's going to be able to be fixed. If you go with the private companies, well, then be prepared to pay an arm and a leg for shipping. So that's why I've kind of resignated myself to the fact that I think if I can just offset the cost of feeding the fish room,
You're
and
happy?
I can find somebody here locally that'll take whatever I produce, I'm good. I'm solid.
Yeah. I'm lucky. I have about 4 local stores that I can sell to, that have already like had interest in a few of the things I'm breeding. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll be able to work with you guys. And then if anything doesn't go to them, I'm lucky enough to just know them well enough that they've taken me on some of their like wholesale runs. Like, hey, you can just tag along for the day, like a little ride
Mm.
along. And so I've met some wholesalers, and it's like, hey, if I have a ton of fish, especially consistently coming out, I can always go to the wholesaler and do that, um, you know, quantity while still keeping that quality, because I really care about culling and making sure inbreeding doesn't become a huge issue.
Yeah.
But actually, Corey with Aquarium Co-op, he's talking. Him and Dean were doing a whole thing about how to be a breeder long term,
Yeah.
and the whole thing is forget the shipping. Most people can't make shipping work unless you put the ball in someone else's court. If you say, hey, you have to cover all the shipping cost, most people don't want to buy from you. And there's enough people that are trying to make this work that are willing to bite the shipping cost till they fail, that whenever, company A, B, or C fails, there's still company D, E, F that's going to come up and compete with you and try to do the same thing till they fail. So I completely agree with you where the shipping just doesn't make sense for most people unless you can really get it down to like a science.
Yeah. One of the craziest
Or
things
you
that
have
I
something really rare, that too.
well, and not even well, yeah, if you're going to do the shipping. But one of the things that I've really found interesting, and this is something that I started hearing more and more often recently, and it's going back to the libraries because I know you keep libraries. Um, the quality, they're not finding good quality like they used to, and I think some of it is what we were talking about earlier about inbreeding so much that it's kind of declined the quality. And but just but just even being able to find, it's harder to find now just regular mix fancy guppies because everybody that is breeding guppies is trying to breed straight lines.
Yep.
So it's crazy how things have gone full circle. Whereas to one time what was sought out was the different colors of the guppies, and then all of a sudden it went to, oh no, I want a specific strain. That now it seems like it's doing the 180 and going back to like, well, all of a sudden we don't have the very basic ones and we want more of those, which is very interesting. I'm learning that we go in cycles in this hobby.
Yep.
There's ebbs and flows, it's just, and if you stay in a certain area, soon enough that'll come back to you again. You don't have to be chasing all
Yeah.
these
The
trends.
new high. It's
You
like
know,
someone talked about that with the long fin green dragons. Like, oh, they just blew up and then they kind of like came down. Like, no one's really talking about them right now, as far as I can see. And then
well,
boom, they blew up again.
yeah, I was having a talk with Aquafunk, and we were talking about, we could both remember when bristlenose were a hot commodity, and now it's almost as hard to get rid of them as common plecos. It's just the market is kind of inundated with all these because they're kind of easy to breed. But I'm sure you
Yeah.
stick around with them, you know, 3 or 4 years down the road, they might come popular again. Which is one of the things why I kind of breed the stuff where I let it be and let it go through its own cycle. I'm not getting rid of it. I enjoy what I have. That's really what it boils down to. And I enjoy what I have. And if it breeds, great. If it doesn't, well, then I'll keep trying until I get it to breed.
Yeah. And that's kind of where like selection comes into it too. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to like kind of pull back into the business side. Like, it's why I
Let's
specifically
go.
chose the bright color morphs and the long fin variants, because those are the ones that still fetch a higher price now, but down the road, like will hopefully still keep that higher price. Well, yeah, they're able to be bred out like they're bristlenose.
Yeah.
Like, you can breed them, but if you keep a decent colony of them, you're gonna have a way to get rid of them because people love them. They all see them as, hey, this is the suckerfish that cleans my tank, even though that's like a horrible misconception in my opinion. They will poop way more than they clean your tank, but they're also just such pretty fish. I think there's always going to be a market for them, but you are going to be getting rid of them super cheap unless you get
Yeah.
those, nicer strains. But even you see that with the zebra plecos, the prices are coming down. They'd be like $200 a fish, and more people are breeding them now. That I see them more for like 120 now, 120, 130 for some pretty big fish, like 2 inches long. I'm like, that's not terrible.
I think those are going to retain their value a little bit longer though, because you can't import them anymore.
Not at all. And even though they've kind of rejuvenated in the wild, which is surprising, I'm surprised you can't. There's still so much around that. I don't know, that's a whole nother thing. And then I think us local breeders, anyone, you mentioned there's a few people in the community that breed in the US, bringing back in politics a little. If Trump actually does go through and put in these tariffs, it's going to give a huge leg up to local breeders selling to stores, because the stores are going to be having to pay that new import cost. And import's already so expensive. Importing fish sucks money. So if you're able to supply those more common fish that you can produce in mass numbers, why on earth would I import bristlenose when I can buy them from Chris down the street?
Yeah.
I can spend my import money on, the rarer stuff that maybe is not produced as much over there. Or maybe we'll get some of the rarer shrimp varieties that are coming up, because shrimp are blowing up all around the world. We just don't get the cool ones over here until like 3-4 years later when these lines finally start trickling out.
I noticed because I consume a lot of this stuff. Europe, for some reason, seems to get the newest of the new first, and then it kind of trickles.
Specifically too.
Yeah, then it goes everywhere else. But usually I'll watch some of the stuff and I'll see what's starting to hit over there, and it's like, oh, okay, that's the direction the hobby's going to be going. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I remember like rice fish were a big thing for a long time outside of the United States. Now it's like they're finally starting to get popularity here, but it's taken it from the time that I started noticing them to the now where it's kind of a common thing to hear mentioned, probably about 3 years.
Yeah, that's something where I see if I get an RO system, I'm like, maybe I start messing with Caridinia. But I also don't want to deal with resetting tanks every single year or two. Like, I don't know. It's something where I'm like, all right, step back for now. Maybe I keep one Caridinia tank just because I'm like, all right, I want some like electric blues because they're cool. Mm-hmm. But like, I do need to focus on if I'm going to justify doing this to my father's basement, I need to bring in something to like cover the water bill or cover the electric bill so he doesn't kill me.
I want to say it was Brandon that was on, that he was talking about I hope it was him. If not, that's kind of messed up. I don't remember. But there's a Caridina species that you could actually keep in tap water.
The green algae, or no, hang on.
No.
Malawi.
They were tigers something, I think. I forget what species. But I'd have to go back and watch that video.
Because I also know Malawa. Caridinia, what's their scientific name? These guys eat algae like crazy too. Caridinia parapensis.
That might be the one. I don't know. Because I've done I've done like 4 live streams, almost all back to back to each other, and it's kind of like I'm trying to remember who did I talk to about that specific topic, and I can't. My recall right now is pretty bad.
I saw you've been cranking them out.
Yeah, I had a pretty good pace going, and then the summer rolled around, and we were gone for quite a bit of it because we were traveling to go see the grandkids, and then we had the grandkids with us, and then it's an excuse. I got lazy. That's the reality of it, because I started focusing on restructuring my fish room. It used to be more of a U shape. It was a lot smaller than what it's now. Well, No, I wouldn't say it's the same amount of. No, no, I did add tanks. It's not the same amount of tanks, but I ended up moving them. I'm in the garage, so I was taking up basically like a car slot and had them set up as a U. And now my wife was like, "We need to have more access to the garage," and she didn't like the fact the way it looked, kind of like all enclosed. She doesn't like enclosed spaces, even though this is not her room. She still came in and said, "Wouldn't it be better if you just put them all up against the wall?" And oh, there it is, tangerine tiger shrimp. Thank you, Essie. Uh,
Tangerine tigers can be kept in like tap
yeah,
water.
yeah,
Interesting.
yep. Oops, sorry.
Is that like neo parameters more? Like, is that
Yeah,
what people mean by
that's what I
tap water? It's
understand.
more
Yeah, that's what I.
because
Who is
I've
it?
seen
Yeah,
those going all
LRB
over. They're
sends them.
pretty cool.
Yeah, LRB is the one that sells them, but yeah, they're a strain that I don't know if LRB has gotten them to adjust to tap water, but it's that one of the rare Caridina that you can successfully keep in tap water.
Because you can kind of meet in the middle with some of them. Like even like the red crystals, they've been around for so long that you can keep them on the higher end of the Caridinia scale, and like some neos in the tank on the lower end to try to like double dip. But I mean, they're not super optimal, but you still get babies out of both. I don't apparently because I suck with shrimp, but some people I know they keep tanks with both in them just to really get them going. Garden of Eder did.
Yeah.
Ooh,
You
they've
know
got a
them, right?
crazy setup.
Yeah. Well, that's a good resource to have, especially you want to get into shrimp. Talking to Grant and Shelby. I mean, that's their bread and butter is shrimp.
Yeah, that's something I do need to do more of, like get more involved with the community. That's why I was like, I'm gonna jump on this. You know what? I definitely need to meet more of the online presence people because I'm very local with who I know in my
Yeah.
fish clubs. Like if I'm reaching out to someone, they probably live within an hour of me,
Well,
except for some of the
that's
lunatics that drive 3 hours from upstate New York to our things. I'm like, guys, whoa, you have fish
well,
clubs that are closer. Like, yeah, we go to those too. I'm like, huh? They're
yeah.
like, yeah, this is our fifth meeting this week.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I know guys that travel. They travel, to go to fish club meetings, and they go to all of them. That's the craziest part of them. There's like I want to say they're, I don't know, they're father and son, or they're just friends. They're out of San Diego, and I see them. I've been to club meetings. Well, I got to go to their club meeting in San Diego. I went to one in the LA area, and they were there. I went to in Phoenix for it's for the Killy Fish Club, and they were there because it's a big event they do every year. And it's like, man, you guys get around. And he goes, yeah, we try to everything we can drive to, they'll go to. And I thought that was pretty cool. That's something that I wish if I had more time, it's something I would probably do too. But I'm kind of I'm kind of restricted because I work shift work, and
Mhm.
it's not like Monday to Friday. We have to where I work, we have to man our station 24/7. So there is no it's kind of like a rotating schedule, and eventually I like once a month I get like 4 days off together, and it happens to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, but it's only one weekend out of the month. And so that's why sometimes like the last time I grouped a bunch of them in a cluster was because I was off all those days and I was trying to play catch up. This year, 2024, I was kind of lazy. I didn't do as much as I did the previous year, and I didn't want to end the year on not doing much. So I just got my. Now that I'm done reorganizing in here, I've got a little bit more time and going back to try to do this on a more regular schedule because I was although I don't keep per se a set date or time like most of the other people do. Um, which is it could be a drawback, but the upside for me is it allows me to have access to other people that their schedule is a little bit different. Like for example, and I'm going to plug that one in, even though we haven't necessarily set a date, but she's here today, or she was here. Sarah the Great, she's out in Australia. If I was working on a set date and time, it would have been very hard for me to find a time where her and I would coincide to be able to work for the both of us. It seems now that like we've kind of worked that out a little bit, and we've got a date set. It's just a matter of just finalizing the time. And if for me, it doesn't matter which one of the two she chooses because I can adjust it to my schedule. It's not that big of a deal. But because I do have that flexibility, like for you, this is the only time slot that you kind of had available because I know you got something to do in a little bit, right?
Yeah,
You
I
have a
gotta jump
board
on the.
meeting that you got to go to. How much time will we have before we cut out of here?
That starts in like 20 minutes, but I can go over because they love talking BS for like the first 20 minutes.
Okay.
So
Well, no.
I
Yeah,
could, I could roll in a little late, fashionably
I don't,
late.
I don't want you to miss that. We can kind of wrap it up, anyways. But no, and that's one of the things that I've really liked about it. I know my audience kind of hates it because one of the things that they like is, and I like it too. I'm guilty of that. Is the interaction in the chat. There's this conversation, but there's always the entertaining conversation that happens in the chats, and that's one of the upsides of the live streams. At least in my live streams, that's one of the things that I always see that is going on. People are going back and forth, and that's really cool, and it gives you that sense of community because you start seeing some of the familiar names, and pretty soon you start, oh, that's so and so. And then if you happen to catch them on a live stream, well, not only now do you have the name associated there, but you also have a face to put it together with, and you're going, oh yeah, I know who that is. And so that's what's kind of cool about doing lives. And that was one of the things that I was going to ask you is doing lives on your channel something that you're going to potentially do in the future you want to do?
Uh, Honestly, probably not. Like here and there to just kind of do a channel update thing. Like, hey, we're gonna have a live in 2 weeks to talk about where the channel's going or like what I want to do. But I don't think I really want to get into it being another habit. When I was doing it for Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to toot my own horn. I'm pretty good at video games, and it was mainly shooters. But I also wasn't that level of I'm that pro player. So that wasn't kind of my niche. I feel like I can be kind of entertaining when I talk. So that was kind of my thing. I was like a pretty solid player that could, reach higher levels of gameplay while also kind of like sitting back and shooting the shit with chat. And that was kind of my thing. But even doing that, like I got a decent audience, but like I was putting in 40 hours a month on streaming alone and then another like 20 just to do editing and trying to keep up with socials, then like trying to stay involved with everyone else's channels. It's like it was like a full-time job while also being a student and working and doing my internships and working to pay for school and then trying to balance like my girlfriend and everything. It was like streaming, just I had to cut it out because it becomes huge. It really becomes this big, not burden, because it's still a blast. Like I love that community. I still go on my socials once in a while to like chat with people. Over Thanksgiving, I was catching up on DMs with some people, like old common viewers. But like the one thing about it is, man, it is tough to find the time for it, especially with a busy schedule and especially when trying to build a separate career. Like I can find time laying in bed beforehand after I film to like kind of tweak and edit videos. Um, but then, oh my God, where was I going with that? But then like going to do a live stream and then also do the content that I want to do. Because realistically, this is also meant to be a side hustle. Like I would like YouTube to become an income stream one day. Like, it doesn't have to be crazy, but like the YouTube videos are where the monetization really comes in. Selling of fish, potentially opening my own store one day. And depending on how much my girlfriend's a biochemistry major, I really want her to like kind of find her way, but I'm sure I could talk to her like maybe doing a fish food brand one day because
Mhm.
who knows? Like I said, I take a lot of inspiration from keeping fish simple. I'm never going to like not say that. A Corey from Aquarium Co-op. I'm really trying to get get some like dry products out of the way. That's what I have right up here. Just like these little slate caves. I put this together. This is my first prototype. I was just sketching out today how I could actually cut these efficiently to get as much out of one piece of slate as possible. And like I think they're really cool. They're pretty, but kind of tweaking stuff like that. So I think that's really where my priority lies time wise. and doing live streams here and there, like sprinkled within. But as for it being a consistent thing on my channel, like who knows, maybe a monthly live stream, maybe a quarterly live stream. I don't know. I have a lot of question marks right now. Still figuring myself out. I'm on this spiritual journey.
And that's okay. Your channel's only been up and running how long?
Oh God. Whenever I started it just so I made sure no one would take the naming, because I mainly focused on Instagram to start.
Okay.
But then I set up the channel like a couple months ago when I did the Fit Killy talk, and then I uploaded my first video last Wednesday. So like this is week 2. I'm trying to put out a video a week till February and just evaluate where I am, if I'm liking what I'm doing, if I'm liking the content, and kind of getting past that imposter syndrome too.
Yeah. I still haven't gotten over that.
I don't think you ever do.
No, I don't. Well, yeah, I don't think you ever do. I don't know. To this day, no. Yeah, it's not one of those things that it's a feeling that you'll never, at least I don't think you ever get rid of it, which I don't think it's bad. I mean, kind of keeps you grounded.
So I don't know.
So what I wanted to ask, besides I think your channel on YouTube, you said, is about 3 months, for at least when the video was posted, the first video, right?
Yeah, I threw that up just to have it up there. And I figured the only videos I'd really be posting were going to be any talks I give at fish clubs, because I started tweaking some others. I was doing one talk on just like being a younger person in the hobby, like kind of what the experience is like. And then I got busy with starting a new job and life, kind of put that on the back burner. But I think a big part of what I love talking. So I think, giving talks at aquarium clubs could be, a lot of fun, especially as a young guy. But I really want to get this going. Yeah, because there's a little more credibility in it, but also because it gives me more topics to talk about. Yeah. Something I really want to keep my channel focused on is being really beginner friendly, beginner to like intermediate, with some advanced tips in like sprinkled, because I really want fish keeping to be accessible to more people. A project I'm working on, I got sponsored by Higer. They've partnered with me for some stuff, and something we have in the works with one of my local libraries. I got a donation from someone where I just have this nice wooden tank, but I'm going to be setting that up in my local library in the kids area, hopefully, if they get it approved by the board. But Higer was like, yeah, we'll sponsor your hardware stuff. And then I got to make some content for that. And, I have the affiliate links where, that can be some income, but hey, now I can get it in front of some younger people, and some younger people can get really excited about this stuff. So that's really where I want to get the hobby going, and where a lot of my passion comes in. One, getting younger people involved. Well, one being, I want to keep stuff that I think is just cool. Two is, breeding ethically. I want to make sure that my fish are really high quality and really healthy. And then getting younger people involved, spreading this hobby and sharing as much as we possibly can. I think those are like the 3 big points I want to work on. And then like making money kind of comes in down the road, so I can actually fund what I'm doing. It would be really cool to do this full time and really just encourage people to do it. But like realistically, if it happens, cool, we start doubling down there. But now with the resources I have and what I can do, is I just want to see more people enjoy this, but enjoy it right. I don't want those clown puke tanks. I want a kid to go, oh my God, there's plants. I want to make an ecosystem. I'm going to play God, which is really what we all do. But like, that's really what this hobby boils down to, playing God in a glass box. But a lot of us are pretty good gods. Some of us are terrible gods, as we've seen from social media. But that's kind of like the big passion of mine, inspiring youth. Hence the drug stuff, like getting kids to not use drugs and such. And it gets people excited. So that's kind of a big project I'm working on. And then I'm hoping if that goes well, I can talk to my local fish club and say, hey, we need volunteers to do this. Like set up a tank at an elementary school around the corner from your house and go check in on it once a month. Like realistically, set up one that can be easy. Throw some live plants in, some guppies, like something that'll take care of itself for the most part. Don't go throw a discus tank in somewhere where now you have a full-time job. But like, it's something colorful that gets people excited, that's natural, that makes them go, oh, ecosystems. I'm going to have a little write-up on the stand. So like any kid who comes over goes, oh, this is what this fish is. They're having babies. oh, here's the nitrogen cycle in like 3 simple sentences, and then a QR code to my channel of like, hey, here's where you can learn some more stuff to, understand this hobby.
Yeah. No, that was one of the things I was going to talk about. That I was going to let you know. You'll be surprised how supportive this community is, especially when you're working on a project like setting up something for the public and the kids. I think was been a year now, or coming up on a year. I set one up for the Children's Museum down here, and it was overwhelming the amount of support I was receiving from people wanting to help and contribute to that. So don't be surprised if people start hitting you up and saying, "Hey, do you need anything? Is there anything we can help you with?" Because they'll reach out and they come through. It's just not somebody saying, I want to help," and then they ghost you, like you said. Uh,
like,
you
like
know,
a scumbag,
but
like a scumbag
but
seller.
but the truth is, you're going to go about it smart if you set something that's pretty low maintenance and self-sustaining. We did like an aquascape pun in there at the Children's Museum, and if I don't go out there like every 2 weeks, it really gets out of hand real quick. It gets overgrown. Um, it's just you're dealing with all kinds of stuff. But it's what we did. It's the idea was set it up for a year, break it down, and then set something up new. And I think it's coming up on that time where the fish of kind of stayed their length in there, and now it's time to change it up a little bit. One thing that I will tell you, the more color you can have in there, especially with kids, the better off it's going to be. The more excitement they're going to get, and it doesn't matter what species it is. The kids don't care for 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 all intended purposes. If you were to get the glowfish,
They'll
the
be
kids
happy.
will love it because they want to see the different. Every kid has a favorite color, and the more colors you can hit in there, you'll hear the kids say, "That's my fish because it's so and so color." And that is, to me, that's been the most enjoyable part of setting that aquarium up. It's not what people say about how it looks. It's what the reaction that you get to see from the kids, and that genuine excitement, and that is priceless. And
Yeah,
if you
that.
can get involved with that and you can see it happening, wow, that is like some serious food for your soul. And it's probably one of the best things that I've got an opportunity to do, and I highly recommend it. It is
Yeah.
so satisfying, and it's all the kids, just being able to see these kids. And for me, it goes back to me being a kid. As much as I wanted to have a fish tank, we couldn't afford to have one. So anytime I got access to an aquarium, whether it was in a public area or at a office, a doctor's office, or even just going, this is, I'm going to date myself, but going back to like the hardware store or the Walmart that had fish,
Yeah.
and being able to see them there is kind of like, wow, that was kind of like cool. That would something that would capture me for hours, and it still does. That's why I have this fixation with so many tanks, is because it's still something uh, that is enjoyable, something that kind of makes me recall when I was a kid, and it brings that inner child of me out. Well, my inner child is always out. It's the adult side that never really comes out, and it should come out more often. But uh, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I think now that I think about it, the real reason why I enjoy tanks is because it makes me feel young, and it reminds me of when I was a kid, and that's why probably I don't get enough of them. That's why I have so many. But with that being said, if people want to follow you, where can they find you besides YouTube? I know you have some other social
Oh
medias.
God, too much. You can find me on Instagram. That's like the main one I've really been using. Instagram and YouTube, both Aquatic Ascent. That's where you'll be able to catch me the easiest. I'm on TikTok, where I just kind of put the same stuff up from Instagram. I'm not gonna lie, but I wanted to get exposure. And
Yeah.
you can also find me on Reddit. If you see me on AquaSwap, you'll see that I'm on Aquabid. And you can also check out my website. If you know anything about making websites, please hit me up because it has been a work in progress for a while. And I unfortunately, I did the um, WordPress.com instead of WordPress.org, so I could never set up a proper shop in it. And yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself for that one. But yeah, I'm kind of all over. I've got the link tree too. If you go to any of my socials, you'll find the link tree that brings you to anything else. So yeah, and I'm also super easy to get in touch with. If you reach out to me on Instagram or anything DMs, I'm happy to chat.
I was trying to remember. Was I able to get a hold of you through email? I don't, because I know I was having a
Oh
hard
yeah,
time.
I think I forgot to put that like up almost. It's just aquaticascent@gmail.com.
Okay.
I don't think we ever swapped emails because I was like, oh, you know what? We're in the DMs. Might as well just
Well,
chat
you know,
here.
that's the one stalker side of me. Is that I'll try to find you on. You're going to be on one of the social media outlets. I mean, that's just so I just go about trying the channel name until I come across. Sarah could attest to that.
Were you the guy in the minivan in front of my house last night?
Yeah, that was me. I was wanting to make sure that you were going to show up for the live stream.
I got worried. I was
Yeah,
running a
and I
little
know
late
that
coming
kind
back
of
from getting new fish.
that could kind of take back some people that are relatively new to the community, and it's just kind of like because I'm always interested in in seeing people come in and set us aside in this community. But I'm of the opinion the more the merrier. I really believe there's strength in numbers. And the other thing is, what better way to give you an opportunity to help you grow than to have you come on here and get some exposure? And I do that because people did that for me when I was starting out. Some of the bigger channels reached out to me, and I'm by no means am I saying I'm a big channel. There's way bigger channels out there, but I think I'm now at a position where there's enough people that are following what I'm doing that I can kind of uh, give you a little bit of a push start. Obviously, your personality, your content is what's going to carry you. But sometimes what we need is that little push to get us going and going in the right direction. Uh, Probably more than half of the people that are here today have been people that I've had a great opportunity to have a conversation like I am with you today. And to me, that's priceless. I mean, I get to meet new, interesting people all the time, and I really like it. I mean, I'm kind of like you. If you haven't figured that out, I like to talk, but more than liking to talk, I like to listen and get to know people. And it's just one of those things where the least that I could do is kind of pay forward with some people took a chance on me and gave me that opportunity. I have to do it. I have to, especially if we're really serious about growing this community. Well, that's the way I figured I can help is allowing you to be introduced to some other content creators or content consumers that are out there who might find your stuff as interesting as I did. And that's the very bare minimum that I can do, or I can feel that I can give back to everybody that's done so much for me. So, with that being said, I want to say thank you so much. Oh, and congratulations. I believe you're at 50 now.
50.
So,
Thank you for the support, guys. I was like a 30 earlier. I
yeah,
that.
you'll be.
I hope you enjoyed the tomfoolery. It's
And
only going to go uphill from here.
Yeah, don't be surprised. You're probably going to get other people to ask you to come on and be a guest, which is a beautiful thing because we all capture different sections of the audience, and it's like anything else. It's like business. 53. They're correcting me now. It's like the more exposure you get out there, and the more you get put out and forward in front of other people. 54. Okay, it's going to continue to grow, I guess. And so I'm really excited to see what you're going to be doing in the future. I think I really I agree with Kyle. I love your attitude. I love your energy. I kind of feed off of it. It keeps me feeling a little bit younger, and I'm really waiting to see what else I can learn from you. So thank you so much, and thanks for taking a chance on coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. Any of y'all who are also content creators, help me learn how to edit videos better because I just learned how to put background music in on this past video. So like, ouch. But next time, my sister does she plays college volleyball, but sometime in the spring, she's gonna be out in Phoenix. So hopefully it lines up when the Phoenix Fish Club happens, and maybe we'll be able to meet in person.
Oh, cool. I'll look forward to that. And yeah, definitely. Now they're giving me shit. Because they know I'm one take Jake, bloopers and all. I don't trim no fat. You get the full honestly, it's just I'm lazy. I don't like editing. It's the least favorite part of doing content for me. I know people like Alex Fathom Aquatics. He loves to edit. That's his thing, and I can really appreciate that because honestly, they make very good videos when they're well edited. Me, on the other hand, I'm just an old fart that doesn't want to change. So I'm just gonna record. I'm gonna hit record, and you're gonna get everything, all the all the misspoken words. I half the time I capture myself. I said, "Did I really say that word?" And I thought I was clearly thinking a different word. And it's like I'm even too lazy to go back and edit that out. Um, so I just let it ride. People have learned that for me, you're gonna get what you see on that video is exactly what happened at the time of recording. Um, but that's it. But that's just me. I'd rather do this. This is what I truly enjoy doing is getting to meet other hobbyists, getting to you know learn from other hobbyists. I like I said, that's the one thing that I love is being able to learn. I have never learned enough. I mean, there's always going to be something that that uh that I'll want to learn, and I can learn from somebody, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't matter. Learning is learning. You're always going to take away something from somebody else. So, with that being said, I want to thank everybody that was hanging out with us today. Um, if you really enjoyed Chris, make sure you go check out his channel, even though he's just starting out, and give him a little bit of love. And hopefully, we'll see more of you. You're more than welcome to come back anytime you want. And if you got any updates or anything else that's going on, if you want to share it with us, feel free. And with that being said, thank you, Chris. And thank you, everybody that joined us. And we'll see you on the next one. Tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow with Patty Aquatics. We're going to be on rough around the same time. I got to go back. I think it was like 5 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock Central Time. So he's in Wisconsin, whatever time is in Wisconsin, or as Funk likes to say, they're in Canada. So, uh, anyways, thank you guys, and we'll catch you guys soon. You guys take care. Let's end this.